welcome into Grimm's Gates of Horror. My name is Grimm, this is your new haven for all things horror movie related, and today I'm going to be telling you my ranking of the Conjuring movies. And the Conjuring is a franchise that I've been watching since I was literally a child. I was probably like 12 when I first watched it because my childhood best friend, he showed me the first two movies and we watched them, same with Paranormal Activity, and we just scared ourselves shitless, like just watching these movies about paranormal activity. I remember because we used to mess around with like those apps on your phone that you would have where like it would be like a ghost radar, and we would just scare ourselves with that. And yeah, the first two specifically just bring me back to those times when we would have like sleepovers and like spend the night at each other's houses. But today I'm finally gonna break them all down and tell you what I think of them in like my ranking of the whole franchise. So let's get into it. And 10th place we have Annabelle. Annabelle was the first spin-off from The Conjuring, and while it introduced one of the franchise's most iconic objects, the cursed doll, it unfortunately falls short in execution. Directed by John R. Leonetti, the movie attempts to tell the origin story of how Annabelle became a conduit for evil. It's set in 1967 and follows John and Mia form, a young couple expecting their first child, and what begins as a domestic drama quickly spirals into supernatural horror after a brutal home invasion by members of a satanic cult. The film opens with John giving Mia a vintage porcelain doll to complete her collection, and that same night their neighbors are murdered by their estranged daughter and her boyfriend, cultists who break into the form's home. During the chaos, the female cultist dies while holding the doll, and her blood drips into his eye, binding a demonic force to the object. This moment is meant to be the doll's birth as a cursed item, but it's handled with no build-up, making it feel more like a plot device than a strange event. And from there, the film almost like shifts into a slow-burning haunted house narrative. Mia begins experiencing strange phenomena like doors creaking open, appliances turning on by themselves, and shadowy figures lurking in the corner. And the doll itself rarely moves or acts directly. It's more of a passive vessel for the demon, which wants something far more sinister, which is the soul of Mia's unborn baby. And this raises the stakes, but the film struggles to maintain any tension. Many of the scares rely on loud noises and sudden cuts rather than atmosphere or psychological dread. One of the film's stronger elements though is Maya's arc as a new mother. She's vulnerable, isolated, and increasingly desperate to protect her child. Her interactions with Father Perez, a local priest, add a spiritual dimension to the story. He confirms that the doll is being used by a demonic force not because it wants the toy, but because it wants a soul. This reveal adds urgency, but the movie never fully explores the depth of the implications of the emotional weight of the sacrifice. And the climax is perhaps the movie's most compelling moment, as Mia is manipulated into believing she must offer her own soul to save her child. And as she's about to leap from the window with the doll in her arms, her husband and their friend Evelyn show up and talk her out of it. Evelyn, who's been grappling with the guilt of her own daughter's death, chooses to sacrifice herself instead. She takes the doll and jumps, offering her soul to the demon. It's a great act of redemption, but it feels rushed and underdeveloped. And the movie just ends with the doll mysteriously vanishing, only to reappear in an antique shop, setting the stage for its appearance in The Conjuring. This closing scene ties the film into the larger universe, but also highlights the biggest flaw. Annabelle feels more like a connective tissue than a fully thought out story. It introduces key elements but lacks the emotional depth, character development, and directorial style that define the best entries in the franchise. The film is competent but uninspired. The 1960s setting is well executed, and there are moments of genuine creepiness, like the elevator scene where Mia is trapped with a demonic presence, which I do have to say, this demon feels very reminiscent of the demon from like Insidious, but these are few and far in between. The pacing drags, and the characters often feel like archetypes rather than real people. Compared to the subtle storytelling of Annabelle creation, this film feels like a missed opportunity. Annabelle earns a spot at the bottom of the ranking not because it's unwatchable, but because it fails to live up to the potential of its premise. It's a film that introduces a terrifying icon but doesn't give her the story she deserves. And Annabelle just remains a cautionary tale about the importance of substance over setup. And I give Annabelle a D+. And going to ninth place we have The Nun. The Nun was one of my most anticipated movies in the Conjuring universe when it first came out, mostly because it promised to explore the origins to Valak. Directed by Corin Hardy and produced by James Wan, the film is set in 1952 Romania and serves as a prequel to the entire franchise. Its gothic setting, religious imagery, and eerie atmosphere make it visually striking, but its narrative execution leaves a lot to be desired. The story begins with a chilling suicide at the remote Carta Monastery. A young nun, Sister Victoria, hangs herself after a terrifying encounter with an unseen evil. This act sets off alarm bells at the Vatican, which sends Father Burt, played by Demian Bichir, a priest with a haunted past, and Sister Irene, played by Thaisa Farmiga, a nun in training with psychic visions, to investigate. They're guided by Frenchie, played by Jonas Bloquet, a local villager who discovered the body. Together, they uncover the monastery's dark secret that it was built over a gateway to hell, sealed centuries ago with the blood of Christ. But bombings during World War II reopened the rift, allowing Valak to escape. From the moment the trio enters the monastery, the movie leans heavily into the atmosphere. The abbey is cloaked in fog, filled with shadowy corridors, and populated by silent, unsettling unsettling nuns who only appear during the day. At night, the monastery becomes a battleground of spiritual warfare. Father Burke is attacked by a ghostly boy from his past, and Sister Irene experiences terrifying visions. And Frenchie is stalked by Valak's manifestations. The film's strongest asset is its production design. Every frame has some dread, with decaying stone walls, flickering candles, and religious relics that feel ancient and powerful. But the scares often rely on loud noises and sudden appearances rather than sustained tension. Valak, while visually terrifying, is overused to the point of ruining her impact. The film introduces intriguing lore like the idea of holy relics, spiritual possession, and sacrificial faith, but doesn't explore these concepts deeply. The characters, while they are likable, aren't given enough emotional development to make their struggles touching. Sister Irene's visions hint at a deeper connection to the divine, but this thread is never fully explored. The climax takes place in the monastery's flooded catacombs, where the trio confronts Valak directly. Sister Irene, having taken her vows, uses the blood of Christ to banish the demon. In a memorable moment, she holds the relic in her mouth and spits it into Valak's face, sealing the rift. Frenchie revives her with CPR and the monastery is cleared of Valak, but the final twist reveals that Frenchie has been marked by Valak, setting the stage for his possession in The Nun 2. The Nun touches on faith, sacrifice, and the battle between good and evil. It suggests that belief alone isn't enough and action and courage are required to confront darkness. But the movie's execution often feels rushed with heavily descriptive dialogue and underdeveloped character arcs. It's a film that looks terrifying but struggles to make its horror meaningful. In the end, The Nun is a visually rich but narratively thin entry. It expands the universe's mythology and introduces one of its most iconic villains, but it lacks the emotional depth and character-driven storytelling that define the best Conjuring films. It's a haunting experience, but one that leaves you wanting more substance beneath all of the style, and that's why it's in 9th place. And I give The Nun a C+. In 8th place, we have The Curse of La Llorona. The Curse of La Llorona is a unique installment in the Conjuring universe because it draws from Latin American folklore rather than just the Warrens case files. Directed by Michael Chavez in his feature debut, the film centers on the legend of La Llorona, the weeping woman, a ghostly figure who drowned her children and now wanders the earth seeking replacement. While the film connects loosely to the universe through Father Perez from Annabelle, it basically stands on its own, offering a culturally specific horror tale with universal themes of grief, guilt, and a mother's protection. Set in 1973 Los Angeles, the story follows Anna Tate Garcia, played by Linda Cardellini, a widow social worker raising 2 children. After investigating a case involving Patricia Alvarez, a mother who claims her children are being hunted by La Llorona, Anna unknowingly unleashes the spirit upon her own family, and what follows is a series of escalating supernatural attacks as La Llorona targets Anna's children, dragging them toward watery graves in bathtubs, pools, and rivers. The film's strength lies in its emotional core. Anna is a grieving mother herself. Her husband, a police officer, died in the line of duty, and her struggle to protect her children mirrors Patricia's desperation. This parallel adds depth to the horror, making it more than just a ghost story. It's about the lengths mothers will go to shield their children from harm, even when that harm is supernatural. La Llorona leans heavily into water imagery with rain, puddles, bathtubs, and rivers that become symbols of death and sorrow. The ghost herself is striking, dressed in a tattered white gown. Her face is mostly obscured by a veil, her cries echoing through the night. Her presence is often heralded by dripping water and flickering light, creating a sense of dread that builds slowly. One standout scene for me in this movie involves Anna's daughter being dragged underwater in a bathtub, with La Llorona's skeleton-like hands reaching from the depths. It's just a moment for me that's both scary and it's just shot really well. To combat the spirit, Anna turns to Rafael Olvera, played by Raymond Cruz, a former priest turned spiritual warrior. His methods blend Catholic ritual with indigenous spiritualism, offering a refreshing take on exorcism. Raphael's character adds some humor and grit, and his unconventional tools like eggs filled with holy water and protective seeds bring like a folkloric authenticity to the movie. His presence also highlights the tension between institutional religion and folk belief, a theme that runs quietly beneath the surface of this whole movie. But this movie isn't without its flaws. The pacing can be uneven, and some of the scares rely too heavily on the loud noises and sudden appearances, just like The Nun and Annabelle kind of do. The supporting characters, including Anna's children, aren't as fully developed as they could be, which lessens the emotional impact of their peril and when they're under threat. And while the movie introduces cultural elements, it doesn't explore them deeply at all, missing an opportunity to delve into the broader mythology of La Llorona. Still, The Curse of La Llorona deserves credit for bringing a beloved and terrifying legend to the mainstream. It expands the Conjuring universe in a new direction, one rooted in told tradition and ancestral fear. Its themes of maternal sacrifice and spiritual redemption resonate across cultures, and its visual style, moody, wet, and sad, sets it apart from the franchise's more traditional installments, and that's why it's in 8th place, and I give The Curse of La Llorona a B-. Coming in 7th place, we have The Nun 2. The Nun 2 builds on the eerie legacy of Valak, the demon nun, and attempts to deepen the mythology introduced in the first film. Directed by Michael Chavez, this sequel is set in 1956 France and follows Sister Irene, played by Thaisa Farmiga, as she's called upon by the church to investigate a series of mysterious deaths across Europe. These deaths all contain the same unholy signature, pointing to the return of Valak, who is now hunting for a sacred relic, which is the Eye of St. Lucy, believed to hold huge divine power. The Nun 2 feels more focused and character-driven than the first Nun. Sister Irene is no longer a passive observer, she's a seasoned spiritual warrior. Her journey is both external and internal, as she must confront Valak again, but also wrestle with her own doubts and fears. And in this movie, she's joined by Sister Deborah, played by Storm Reed, a skeptical novice whose arc, who kind of mirrors Irene's from the first film. And it's just a great surprise, since I didn't know she was in this movie until I turned this movie on and was watching it, which I loved her in the movie Missing that she did, I think in like 2023. I think it was. Their dynamic in this movie adds emotional texture, with Deborah's disbelief slowly eroding as she witnesses the horrors firsthand. The setting in a former monastery turned boarding school is just rich in gothic atmosphere. Long corridors, candlelit chapels, and shadowy dormitories that create a claustrophobic environment where evil can lurk anywhere. Maurice is reprised by Jonas Bluquet, who is the handyman from the first film, and returns as a tragic figure, still suffering from the lingering effects of his previous possession. His connection to Valak makes him both a target and a key to the mystery, watching his slow descent into darkness adds a layer of tragedy to the narrative. The Nun 2 explores sacrifice, faith, and the power of relics. The legend of St. Lucy, who survived being burned alive and whose eyes were preserved as holy relics, serves as the spiritual backbone of the story. Valak's obsession with these relics isn't just about power, it's about destruction. The demon seeks to corrupt what is sacred, turning symbols of hope into instruments of fear. This switch on holiness is an unsettling idea that I think gives much more depth to what was introduced in The Nun. The scares are more refined than in the first Nun. Chavez uses misdirection, silence, and sudden movement to build tension. One standout sequence for me involves the stained glass window that comes to life with the image of like a goat, demonic intent, kind of like a Black Phillip, creating what I think is a crazy and chilling moment. Another moment involves a possessed student being lured into a chapel where Valak's presence warps reality. And these scenes are less about shock and more about sustained dread, which makes them linger, and I enjoy them a lot more than what we got in the first Nun movie. The climax takes place in the boarding school's catacombs, where Irene and Deborah confront Valak in a battle of faith versus evil. Irene's use of St. Lucy's relics, combined with her strong belief, creates a moment of spiritual success. It's not just a physical victory, it's a claim of purpose. Deborah, once skeptical, finds her own strength, and Maurice is finally freed from Valak's grip. The Nun 2 doesn't reinvent the franchise, but it refines its formula. It's more character-focused, more mythologically rich, and more emotionally resonant than its predecessor. It expands the universe while honoring its roots, and it gives Sister Irene the heroic arc she deserves. And while it still leans on familiar tropes, its commitment to atmosphere and lore makes it a worthy addition to the Conjuring canon, and that's why The Nun 2 is in 7th place, and I give The Nun 2 a B+. And moving on to 6th place, we have Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle Comes Home is a clever shift in the franchise, as it's not just another haunted house story, but a supernatural bottle episode set almost entirely inside the Warrens' home. Directed by Gary Dauberman in his directorial debut, the film takes place shortly after the Warrens secure Annabelle in their artifact room. The premise is simple. What happens when the most cursed object in the collection is let loose among dozens of other haunted relics? The answer is chaos, grief, and a surprisingly heartfelt coming-of-age story. Annabelle Comes Home centers on Judy Warren, played by McKenna Grace, the Warrens' daughter, who's left at home with her babysitter Mary Ellen, played by Madison Eisman, while Ed and Lorraine are away on a case. Things take a turn when Mary Ellen's friend Daniela, played by Katie Sarif, visits, driven by grief over her father's death. Daniela's obsession with contacting the dead leads her to break into the artifact room and unlock Annabelle's case, unleashing a night of terror as cursed objects come to life. What makes Annabelle Comes Home unique is its ensemble structure. Instead of focusing on one entity, the film introduces a rogues gallery of spirits. The ferryman who collects souls with coins over their eyes, the bride, a cursed wedding dress that possesses its wearer, and the black shuck, a demonic werewolf-like creature that stalks the yard. Each spirit has its own mythology, and the film plays like a supernatural anthology stitched together by Annabelle's evil influence. The scares are inventive and varied. One moment you're trapped in a foggy yard with glowing eyes in the distance, and the next you're in the artifact room with a possessed board game predicting your doom. Dauberman uses tight spaces and shifting perspectives to keep the tension high. This film doesn't rely on gore, it's all about dread, misdirection, and the psychological toll of being hunted by the unknown. But beneath the horror, there's emotional depth. Daniela's grief is a central theme, and her desire to reconnect with her father makes her vulnerable to Annabelle's manipulations. Judy, meanwhile, struggles with isolation and the burden of her psychic sensitivity. Her bravery throughout the night, especially when confronting the spirits head-on, marks a turning point in her character. She's no longer just the Warren's daughter, she's a potential descendant to their legacy. The climax is a race against time. The girls must return Annabelle to her glass case to stop the chaos. It's not just a physical challenge, it's an emotional one, as Daniela must resist the temptation to speak to her father's spirit. And when Annabelle is finally sealed, the spirits vanish and calm returns. The Warrens arrive home to find their daughter safe but changed, stronger, wiser, and more connected to her parents. Since before, they always kept her out of the know and never let her know what they really do for work. Annabelle Comes Home might not be the scariest entry, but it's one of the most fun and emotionally deep. The scene between Daniela and Lorraine always hits me in that sweet spot. It's a haunted house movie with heart, a teen horror adventure that expands the universe's mythology. It just proves that even within the confines of one house, the Conjuring universe can still surprise, entertain, and move us. I give Annabelle Comes Home a B+. And in 5th place, we have The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It marks a bold shift in the franchise's formula. Instead of a haunted house, this installment centers around a real-life murder trial, the first in US history where demonic possession was used as a legal defense. It's based on the 1981 case of Arnie Johnson, and while it still features exorcisms and supernatural entities, the film leans heavily into investigative thriller territory. This pivot gives the story a fresh tone, but also introduces new challenges in balancing horror with detective drama. The film opens with a bang, an intense exorcism of 8-year-old David Glatzel. The sequence is chaotic, visceral, and emotionally charged. Ed and Lorraine Warren are present, and when the demon leaves David's body, it enters Arnie Johnson, who boldly invites it into him to save the boy. This moment sets the stage for the rest of the film, as Arnie later murders his landlord in a brutal stabbing, claiming he was possessed. The Warrens must now prove that demonic forces were at play, not just to save Arnie, but to protect others from the same fate. What makes this film compelling is its structure. It's part horror and part detective story, which is why I liked it so much. Ed and Lorraine travel around a lot, uncovering clues about a satanic cult and a cursed totem that links multiple possessions. Lorraine's psychic visions are central to the investigation, and her descent into the mind of the occultist antagonist is one of the film's most chilling sequences. These visions are not just plot devices, they're emotional trials that test her faith and her bond with Ed. And speaking of Ed, his heart condition adds a layer of vulnerability. He's no longer the invincible protector. He's fragile, and every confrontation could be his last. This makes his devotion to Lorraine all the more touching. Their love story continues to be the franchise's emotional anchor and is beautifully portrayed here. When Lorraine risks her life to psychically connect with the occultist, Ed's desperation affects you. The connection goes beyond the supernatural. It's spiritual, emotional, and deeply human. Visually, director Michael Chavez brings a darker, moodier aesthetic. The film is less about jump scares and more about creeping dread. The cursed totems, underground rituals, and shadowy forests create a sense of unease that lingers. The antagonist, which is the mysterious occultist, isn't a demon this time around, but a human conduit for evil, which makes her even more terrifying. She's smart, powerful, and eerily calm, which is an interesting shift from the chaotic spirits of previous films. The Devil Made Me Do It explores the idea of agency. Can someone truly be possessed to the point of losing control? Where does personal responsibility end and supernatural influence begin? These questions aren't just philosophical, they're central to the legal case, and they challenge the Warrens' beliefs. The film doesn't offer answers and is left ambiguous, but it does suggest that evil can be both external and internal, and that confronting evil requires courage, beliefs, and love. The Devil Made Me Do It closes with a quiet moment, with Ed adding the chalice from the cultist altar to the artifact room, and he and Lorraine walk away hand in hand. It serves just as a reminder that their work is never done, but their bond remains unbroken. The Devil Made Me Do It may not be the scariest entry, but it's one of the most ambitious, blending horror, mystery, and courtroom drama into a story that challenges the very nature of belief, and that's why it's in 5th place for me. And coming in 4th place, we have The Conjuring Last Rites. The Conjuring Last Rites is the emotional and spiritual finale of the Warren's journey, and it's designed to feel like a farewell, both to the characters and to the franchise's central arc. Based on the real-life Smurl haunting case, the film centers on Ed and Lorraine Warren as they investigate a demonic infestation in a Pennsylvania home. But again, this isn't just another haunted house story. It's a meditation on legacy, faith, and the cost of a lifetime spent battling evil. From the opening scene, the tone is more dark and reflective than previous installments. Ed is visibly aging, and his heart condition weighs over every moment of tension. Lorraine, meanwhile, is haunted by visions that threaten to break her spirit. Their daughter Judy, now an adult, plays a more central role in this movie, both as a victim and as a potential replacement, like a passing of the torch, if you will. Her possession by the entity is one of the film's best sequences, not just because of the horror, but because of what it symbolizes, the generational toll of the Warrens' work. Last Rites explores the strength of faith in the face of despair. The Smurls' family dream home becomes a battleground, a place where the American ideal of safety and success is corrupted by supernatural evil. This switch up of the perfect home trope is powerful, showing that trauma trauma and darkness can follow us even into new beginnings and starting fresh. The haunting isn't just lurking around, it feeds on the family's internal wounds, turning old hard feelings and fears into literal demons. Director Michael Chavez leans into this metaphorical horror with a more restrained visual style. The scares are less frequent, but more emotionally charged. Objects in the house like mirrors, toys, even furniture become instruments of torture, reflecting the idea that evil can twist familiar things into something grotesque. Lorraine's psychic journey through the house's history is especially haunting as she witnesses past tragedies that echo the present. The climax is both terrifying and emotional as Ed, despite his failing heart, performs a final exorcism that nearly kills him. Lorraine, guided by a vision of divine light, uses a simple prayer that tips the balance. It's not a gimmicky exorcism. It's intimate, spiritual, and moving. The entity is banished but not without cost. The film ends not with horror but with hope as Judy marries Tony in a quiet ceremony, and Lorraine has a vision of a peaceful future. It's a rare moment of joy in a franchise defined by darkness, and it feels earned. The final shot, Ed and Lorraine holding hands watching their daughter step into her own destiny, is a tribute to everything they fought for since the beginning. And I give The Conjuring Last Rites a B+. In third place, I have Annabelle Creation. Annabelle Creation is the rare prequel that not only redeems its predecessor, but elevates the entire mythology surrounding the haunted doll. Directed by David F. Sandberg, this movie rewinds the clock to the 1950s and introduces us to the Mullins family, who open their home to a group of orphaned girls after the tragic death of their daughter Bee. What unfolds is a slow burn descent into terror as the girls begin to experience increasingly disturbing phenomena centered around a locked room and the doll inside. What sets Creation apart is its emotional depth. The Mullins' grief is felt throughout the whole movie, and their decision to invite children into the home is both generous and tragic. This film doesn't rush into scares, instead it builds tension through atmosphere, silence, and dread. The orphan girls, particularly Janice and Linda, are given real personalities and vulnerabilities, which makes the threats they face feel personal. Janice, who suffers from polio, becomes the emotional core of the film. Her isolation and physical limitations make her an easy target for the demonic force, and her transformation is heartbreaking. Sandberg's direction is precise and patient. He uses light and shadow to create the unease, like the chilling scene where Janice sees Bee's ghost in the darkened hallway, only for it to morph into something far more sinister. The stair lift sequence where Janice is dragged violently back up the stairs by an unseen force. For me, that's just a standout moment of pure terror. The film also makes excellent use of the doll itself, keeping it mostly stationary but always present, like a cursed relic watching from the shadows. Annabelle Creation explores guilt, grief, and the consequences of messing with the supernatural. The Mullins attempt to contact their daughter through forbidden rituals, which open the door to something far darker. The demon doesn't just possess the doll, it manipulates the living, preying on their sorrow and desperation. And this adds a layer of moral complexity to the horror. The evil isn't random, it was invited by the Mullins. Annabelle Creation ties directly into the events of the first Annabelle, giving that film more weight that it lacked, and Creation is what Annabelle should have been. Janice's possession and transformation into the cultist seen in the original movie is just a clever narrative bridge. I also would like to say it's also really rare for a prequel to enhance its franchise so effectively, but Annabelle Creation does just that. It's scary, but it's also tragic, thoughtful, and beautifully crafted. It proves that with the right director and a strong emotional core, even a spin-off can compete with the main installment. And that's why Annabelle Creation is in third place and is given an A+. If you're enjoying the video so far, I'd like to ask you to please like the video and subscribe if you're enjoying it, and turn post notifications on to get notified when I do post more videos like this. And coming in second place, we have The Conjuring 2. The Conjuring 2 takes everything that worked in the first film and expands it. Bigger scares, deeper emotional stakes, and a more complex narrative. This time, the Warrens travel to Enfield, England to investigate the infamous poltergeist haunting of the Hodgson family. What's immediately striking is how the film balances the horror sequences with intimacy. The haunting is more public with media attention and skeptical investigators, but the emotional core remains focused on a single mother trying to protect her children. Lorraine Warren's psychic abilities take center stage here, and Vera Farmiga delivers a performance that's both vulnerable and powerful. Her visions of the demonic non-Valak are chilling, and her fear for Ed's safety adds a layer of urgency to the investigation. Patrick Wilson's Ed is equally compelling. His quiet strength and strong belief in Lorraine makes him one of the most grounded characters in horror cinema in my opinion. Their love story just continues to be the beating heart of the franchise. Director James Wan once again proves his mastery of tension. The Crooked Man sequence with its weird, dreamlike, almost Tim Burton-esque animation and distorted movements is a standout moment that feels like a nightmare come to life almost. Film also uses sound brilliantly. Creaking floors, distant whispers, and sudden silences all contribute to a sense of unease that never lets up. The Conjuring 2 explores doubt, both spiritual and personal. The Hodgsons are doubted by the public, and Lorraine doubts her ability to protect Ed. But through their faith, their love, and perseverance, they overcome. The climax, where Lorraine confronts Valak by using its true name, is a powerful moment of spiritual breakthrough and success. It's not just a battle of belief, it's a declaration of identity and strength. And in the end, The Conjuring 2 isn't just a sequel, it's a deepening of the universe. It just proves that horror can be intelligent, emotional, and visually stunning. It's a film that respects its characters and respects you as a viewer, and it solidifies the Warrens as iconic figures in cinematic horror. And that's why The Conjuring 2 is in second place. And lastly, in first place, we have James Wan's The Conjuring. And The Conjuring is the core of the entire franchise, and it earns its top spot by doing something few horror films manage. It terrifies you while deeply investing you into its characters. Set in 1971, the film follows the Perron family as they move into a secluded farmhouse in Rhode Island, only to be plagued by increasingly violent supernatural events. What makes this film amazing isn't just the scares, it's the emotional weight behind them. The Warrens, played with warmth and conviction by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, aren't just ghost hunters. They're spiritual warriors who genuinely care about the people they help. Their relationship is the emotional anchor of the film, and their strong faith in each other adds just a layer of humanity that elevates the horror higher. Wan's direction is thoughtful, using long takes, slow pans, and minimal music to build tension organically. The infamous clap game scene is a masterclass in suspense where the absence of sound becomes the loudest scream. This film also avoids over-reliance on CGI, favoring practical effects and clever camera work to create a sense of realism. The 1970s setting is detailed, from the costumes to the analog technology, grounding the supernatural in a believable world. The Conjuring explores the idea of spiritual warfare, good versus evil, and not just in the religious sense, but in the emotional realm. The Perrons are a loving family going through this battle, and the Warrens are their protectors. The film's climax, involving an exorcism in the basement, is both horrifying and meaningful. It's not just about banishing a demon, it's about restoring a family's faith in each other. The Conjuring succeeds because it respects us as the viewer. It doesn't insult us with cheap thrills or lazy writing. It builds a world where evil is real, but so is love, and that love is what wins every time. It's the rare horror film that leaves you shaken and moved at the same time, and it sets a gold standard that every entry has tried to match and failed, and that's why the first Conjuring movie is the best. And I give it an A++, a 10 out of 10. It's one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and no one can convince me otherwise. Let me know what you think about this franchise down below. Let me know what your ranking is down below. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. I'm going to be checking the comments because I'm really interested to see how other people's rankings turn out, whether you agree or disagree. I always like looking at other people's ideas, or like why they might put different things in different places. But I think we can all agree that the bottom three, which is La Llorona, The Nun, and Annabelle, they belong down there. I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, please drop a like, subscribe if you are new, and turn post notifications on to join the Gremlins. I mostly post short form content right now, but I usually do like these bigger videos for like rankings, or like if I'm like talking about like a whole franchise, or if there's like something that I'm really passionate about that I want to talk about, because there are things like that I plan on talking about in the future. I hope y'all will stick around for that. Let me know some feedback. Let me know what I can work on, what you'd like to see me review and talk about. If there's any other franchise, anything coming up that you'd like to see me review. I plan to do a bunch of franchises for October. That's gonna be a busy month for me. I plan to watch a lot. I'm going to try to. So if you have any suggestions, put them down below. But yeah, and I also have links down below in the description, so you can check out the Conjuring movies down below. And I'll also have my socials down below as well. I'll have my Twitter down there, my Instagram, my TikTok. Those are where I'm mostly active. You can follow me on those down below. It was actually just announced that The Conjuring is going to have a TV series, and I knew from how Last Rites ended, it felt like they were setting something up, and I knew it's going to be the last one. It's just too big of an IP to pass up on from making new ones. They're making The Conjuring TV series on HBO Max, and all I ask, don't make Judy the next like paranormal investigator and her boyfriend. What I want an anthology series, kind of like American Horror Story, or like make one episode each about each of the artifacts in the room. I feel like that would be amazing. I know they try to do it with like the Nun and Annabelle and the Crystal La Llorona, but don't just make them for the cash grab or to make something that will just connect to the first movie. Make it have substance, make it be meaningful. Like, that's the best you can do with horror. Just make it hit you right in the gut and like make you feel it. That's the best you can do. And so I hope they nail this. If they don't nail this, I feel like it's going to be the nail in their coffin. I hope you did enjoy this video, and check out all the Conjuring movies down below in the description right now.